morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And in today's video, I'm going to be compiling a list of all of the major issues I can currently see facing PvP in the hopes of accommodating them with some possible solutions as well. Because as I obviously want the game to be the best that it can be, to be growing and to be flourishing. And I feel like these issues are significantly hindering that. Now, obviously, if I do miss something or there's something that you find to be very important and impactful, then make sure to let me know in the comments down below. These are just issues that I've gathered from the community, my own personal issues as well from playing through, and I'm going to be going in hopefully a list of like highest priority to lowest priority, if that makes any sense. But the first one, and it's an issue that sometimes gets masked a little bit, but it's MMR. And it's not just that MMR is too low or MMR is too high, it's that it's inconsistent. That is the main issue. So for example, in Shadowlands, you could have been 3,000 rated, and now in the War Within, you're only 2,200 rated. The thing is, those are equivalent. The amount of difficulty to get to 3,000 rating in some seasons of Shadowlands is equivalent to getting 2,200 rated currently in the War Within. And you can see that that's an 800 rating difference. And this is a comment that I've seen in my stream from players a lot of times. They come in and they're like, I used to be this rating this many expansions ago, and now I'm stuck at this rating. I don't know what's going on. I feel awful. I'm just going to quit playing the game as a result of this. So this is obviously a major issue. It's the inconsistency. And the other issue is that it's been an ongoing inconsistency throughout multiple expansions. So because of that, you basically have to rip this number out of the game because this number has lost all meaning. That is the main issue with MMR. The number attached to it has no meaning because 2,200 is equal to 3,000 in some instances. And it's all invisible. You know, the average player doesn't understand why this season was 3,000 rating equivalent of this season's 2,200 rating equivalent. Average player can't figure that out. It's all invisible. I can figure that out. I understand how it works. But for a lot of players, they can't, and they end up quitting because of it. This is a major issue. And if this is an issue why you've quit playing the game, please include that on the like feedback ticket for when you unsubscribe to the game. And it's like, what was your reason? PvP, MMR, something. Because like I don't know how to nail this through enough that this is a big deal. Like this is a huge deal. Everyone is constantly debating MMR for so many expansions right now, but this is fundamentally the issue, is that it's inconsistent. You need to pick a consistent threshold, and honestly, you need to remake it because this one, like I've said, has just been tainted. It's been too many seasons, right? In Shadowlands, you could probably have gotten 4,000 rating, honestly. In Dragonflight Season 1, you could have probably got a 4,000. Like my Enhancement Shaman at the end of Dragonflight Season 1 was like 3,500 rated. Now I'm 2,400 rated. I'm literally 1,100 rating lower than in a previous season. Like that's too much of a variance, and it's been completely tainted, which is why it needs to be completely removed. So the solution is to rework the rating system into something new with no preconceptions, basically, right? Like you have to, and maybe in some cases hide the number. Like in League of Legends, they don't show you the number, and maybe this is for a good reason because maybe there's inconsistencies between seasons, but this is a main driving factor. You know, a lot of the players who play PvP, they play for rating. They're trying to push their limits. That's how they track their progress. So if this progress is inconsistent season to season, then their progress can't be measured. They end up feeling bad, and then they end up quitting. So this is by far the number one issue. This is what I was hoping that they were going to bring up into discussion with kind of the rewards revamp, which we still haven't seen anything. I don't know if the 11.2 announcement was supposed to be that. It didn't seem like that's what it was. So I'm still kind of hoping that that's going to pop up. But basically it needs to be ripped out, and you need to put something new in because the inconsistencies for returning players is just, it's way too wild. So you're losing a lot of returning players because of this ongoing inconsistency, and that inconsistency is determined due to population, right? It's because in Shadowlands we had more people playing, which means inflation is higher, which means people get higher rated. The War Within Season 2 is not as popular, so it's less players, so now you can't get as high rated. So it's like a self-eating snake. The game is gonna eat itself to death. It can't continue like this. It needs to be completely reworked. It needs to have something completely new in it. The next one is rewards, and this is kind of two parts. The first part is being obviously cosmetics, right? Cosmetics is the first one. This expansion's gladiator mount, I think for a lot of PvP players, they consider it to be pretty lackluster. Very similar to how Mythic Plus had their fair complaints in Dragonflight, because their Mythic Plus mount was very bad. It was just like a random ground mount. A lot of Mythic Plus players are like, what's going on? And now, obviously, they've improved and enhanced the quality of the mounts on that front. But now in PvP, it's like the quality went back a few steps. And right now, that's like the only main reason to play PvP. I've had players who, because of the vicious eel mount, were like, I tried PvP and I wasn't very good. And I didn't get over 1400 rating, but you know, I got enough wins that I got the eel, and it was kind of cool, even though I didn't really know what was going on. So obviously, that's like a main driving factor into pulling players in more or less voluntarily, because obviously you could have rewards that increase item level, right? The highest participation I think we've seen in the game was Shadowlands Season 1. Reason for that was because of massive influx of players. A second reason for that was because PvEers had desirable gear based on item level, right? They wanted the enhanced weapon at 2400 rating, I believe it was, and most of them wanted a trinket as well from the PvP vendor, because those are the best for their pre-raid bis, and participation skyrocketed as a result. Now, I would be a hypocrite to say that they should put viable PvE gear on the PvP, like best in slot PvE gear on the PvP vendor, because I don't like it when it's the other way around, where I'm forced to do dungeons in order to get my best in slot PvP gear. I'd be a hypocrite if I said to do that in order to increase participation. But obviously cosmetics is another way to drive that, and we've seen that with all forms of content, right? They can make you grind world quests in the Undermine to get that sick overcoat because you're willing to do it for that sick overcoat, but you don't have to do it if you just want to log on in PvP. So cosmetics are a good way, kind of like a middle ground on getting different parts of the game that wouldn't necessarily participate in other parts of the game incentivized to try and give it a go. So obviously the gladiator mount is a big one, and that's why I think that the gladiator mount potentially needs a rework. One, because very few people end up getting it, especially when you have inconsistencies of MMR, which again, that's why that's the pivotal #1 issue. Some seasons it can be easier to get gladiator mount than others, right? I think sometimes it can be like 30% of the arena players, and then other times it's 0.3% of the arena players. It's like, that's a big glaring issue right there, right? Especially when you compare it to relative level difficulty mounts of other systems in the game. So for me, it's like, I feel like this needs to be completely changed. And the best solution that I've seen for this was something like, let's say at 2000 rating, you get a base gladiator mount with no armor. And you basically take the Dragonflight armor system, right? The Dragonflight dragon armor system. You'd use that to implement so that then at 2100 rating, you get shoulders maybe, or maybe not even the shoulders, maybe like back armor. It depends on whatever, you know, they've decided as far as like the type of gear that's going to be on the mount. Could be like head, it could be tail. The main reason for this is that there's a really big reward that feels more accessible. Obviously, you'd want to fix MMR so it's just consistent, so more people can actually get it, because it's obviously way too small a number of players right now. It's absolutely terrible, especially when 3v3 bracket, that's the only real significant reward to go for, and it feels physically impossible for like the large majority of players to actually go after because of this issue up here. That maybe this system needs to be rewired a little bit. So, and the best part about this is that you can take one mount and then recolor the armor pieces for different arena brackets or PvP brackets, right? You could have a battleground blitz mount that has purple armor that you're attaching to everything. You could have a 2v2 one. You could have it for all brackets, and they could all have different armor types, so it's something to go and collect, a reason to go and play every PvP bracket, and it feels more accessible because at least the base mount's a little bit lower. Collectors might just say, I got the mount, I'm good with that, I'm out, and that's fine. But some collectors might go in, hey, I kind of like this, I think I could try and get 2100. I'm gonna go after that instead, and be able to continue to advance and push my ranking forward. So I think that this is a good idea. I think that we need to try and find a way to basically stagger the rewards with big incentives like this, from a lower threshold. But obviously the gladiator mount is, you know, it's a poor quality. It's a poor quality one at the moment. So obviously just increasing that alone would go a long way to incentivizing the bracket. So many people did Dragonflight 3v3 because of the sick looking mount. It's a big deal. And right now the mount is just not that grabbing. So improving the cosmetics overall is obviously a very important component, but I think also redistributing where you get them and maybe the system of acquiring them as well would go a long way. So if we had consistent MMR and you knew how many, they can preset how many players are going to get it, increase the number of players, so there's more motivation to do it, and then you kind of stagger the rewards of the amount a little bit lower as well, and drag them out like this, which likely incentivize players to keep wanting to go forward, keep wanting to push after those given rewards, is likely going to drive participation into a more positive direction, I would think. And you can kind of like breadcrumb them a little bit more with this, right? If you just give the whole amount, a lot of players are just going to stop, right? A lot, let me know if you guys are like that, right? You get your elite set at 1800 and then you're out. You're just done. You don't care anymore. You stop playing. So if you give everything to them at one threshold, then they're going to end up stopping. So this is a nice way of staggering those rewards out. You get something meaningful. You can stick it into different brackets as well with different color. And it's like, oh my god, this is so much better now. Everybody has something to go after. It's like basically taking the dirigible system from Delves, and you can customize your gladiator mount as you're going up, depending on the bracket. All the brackets see an influx of participation. There's more to go and collect. There's more to go after. The MMR is consistent, so you're not going season to season and wondering why you're 300 rating lower or 20 ranks lower than where you were before. You're gonna feel a lot better. I think players are gonna feel a lot better. I am aware of, not wanting to take away the prestige of getting this. It's like, this is like a big accomplishment in PvP, and it's good that it feels like a big accomplishment. And I still think it will if you leave, for example, like 2400 rating is the shoulder armor. So it's like you still have to get 2400 and get that to get the fully decked out Drake, but you can at least get some of it. And you can get some of it from different brackets also. So maybe if you're someone who doesn't really like 3v3 and you like Battlegrounds more, you could get it from Battleground Blitz if it's a different color. So I think this system is really good. I actually like that a lot. I think that it would go pretty far in that regard. The third, and I think like last major issue, and honestly maybe I'm forgetting because I've been ranting for so long, but at this point it's like it's cheating. This is like a really big issue at the moment, right? It's epic BGs. Epic BGs, win trading, queue syncing. There's a lot, right, that goes into that to really discuss. But cheating is a big deal. I think the biggest one is remove prop paladins as healers, reclassify as that's not how you spell. No, that is reclassify as DPS in solo shuffle, just like every other tank. That needs to happen. It needs to happen. It's just them as a healer. One, they're not balanced appropriately to actually function like that. It's just like extremely chaotic. And then two, because they only fight into each other, it's incredibly easy to Q sync and win trade and exploit. It just needs to be reclassified as a DPS and solo shuffle. Just get rid of that prop paladin bracket. It's just not. I don't think it's worth keeping around at that point. Like if you're gonna keep prop paladin as a healer around, you may as well do double DPS solo shuffle, right? Like you may as well. Oh, that reminded me of the other issue. That reminded me of the other issue. So we can push this aside a little bit. Maybe we'll say that's 4. The queue times. Honestly, maybe I should put this as 2. Maybe we'll go back and we'll push this as 2, right? Because I definitely think the queue times are a really big deal, right? The queue times are a big deal. So let's go look at this, right? The queue times. The issue isn't the issue isn't players with this one, unfortunately. The issue of this one is people don't want to heal. That's the main issue, right? People don't want to heal. They've taken steps. They balanced healers. They're probably the most balanced I think they've ever been, especially for solo shuffle. And people still don't really want to heal. It's just a lower participated role. And it's the same across all games. Any sort of type of support, tank, non like hyper carry DPS role has a lesser amount of players, and because of that, if their system requires that role, your queue times are longer. It's just as a result. So the solutions to this are much more difficult, right? Obviously, you can add unique rewards for healers, which they have. There's a title that you can get. You get the extra boxes, you get more conquests. It's probably the most effective way to gear like an alt or gear other characters, which have increased participation, but still not enough because the threshold to DPS to healer ratio is just so high. But this is like a really big like underpinning issue of like DPS control, whether they live or die. about 40% of the time. So if they don't press a defensive when you're CC'd and they die, it was their fault, right? Even though you're the healer, right? And your role is keeping them alive, and that's why then they'll type to you and be toxic to you, is because they go, you're the healer, why didn't you keep me alive? And it's like, well, it's because you have 40% of the responsibility in your own survival. So this ratio of DPS personal responsibility to survival towards the healer is the issue. That's fundamentally the issue at the moment. And there's two ways to look at it. You either lower the responsibility of DPS, which is kind of prune cooldowns from the game from DPS, so that healers have more control over whether the game, continues or not for their side. Or you go the opposite direction and you make a bracket where healers don't exist. And you introduce new metrics to heal yourself, right? So you create like a double DPS solo shuffle, which is what we just talked about, right? You can create a double DPS solo shuffle with unique healing mechanics, so that it's hopefully more balanced, right? And this would require a lot of iteration in order to get this done. But obviously it's a big deal, right? If you log into the game, you sit a 30-minute queue, you queue into a game where you're 2200 or maybe 1900, but you used to be 2800. You're like, wow, I just sat a queue for a really long time. That felt bad. Wow, I'm 1,000 rating lower than I remember I used to be. That feels really bad. Man, and the gladiator mount's not even that cool. That feels really bad. And now there's a bunch of these guys around me and they're all just cheating. This is not fun. Like, it's just, you're just going to be like, that's going to be just soul destroying. And this is why you can see these are major PvP issues, right? You can see this is like, something's got to give here. Something's got to give when it comes to this, regards to this. So something to incentivize healers more. You can keep throwing rewards at them, obviously, to try and get more people to heal. But I think it might just be temporary. The core issue is that DPS have too much control. And also, it's statistically against you, right? It's like a 25% chance a DPS goes 6-0. It's a 25% chance they go 0-6, which means you have a 50% chance relatively of going 3-3 as a healer, which means the role is lower rated on average. And it's a very complicated situation, because if you try and rig it so healers are higher rated on average than DPS, then queue times for low rated DPS or high rated DPS might go up, because then all of the healers on average are way higher rated, and it doesn't make sense for them to heal a DPS that's significantly lower. So Blizzard has to find a way of getting healers averaged out in a way that they're slightly lower than the top end, so they can heal some lower rated DPS and the higher rated DPS. But as a result, it makes you feel bad, because it just feels like you can't go anywhere as far as your own personal progression. And you're kind of just being used as a tool. So if you're being used as a tool, then you need a pretty substantial amount of rewards, right? Like, I think there should be unique weapon cosmetics or something that make your weapon glow slightly more like a healer. You know, like the old Karazhan weapon enchant that used to come from there. Something that makes you feel unique as a healer relative to the rest of the game. If this is how it's going to be, is that you're just viewed as like a tool in order to help the DPS with their queue times, or you have to completely remove the role and come up with some sort of automated form. The other one is low rating healer bots. Let's like say sub 1500 rating, right? If you're lower rating, if you're lower than 1500 rating and you sit a queue longer than 5 minutes, it gives you healer bots, and then you can play. This is basically the same as double DPS with unique healing mechanics. These are, it's a little bit more of a unique way. The mode doesn't change as dramatically. I feel like this would probably be more realistic than adding a completely different mode that might not be as balanced or whatever. And I mean, honestly, if you're playing at sub 1500 rating, you're probably not even going to notice if they don't tell you that the healers are bots. You probably wouldn't even notice, and at least you get a game. And it's still you, players against players as far as the DPS role. And you can at least play, right? And it's especially for new players who are coming in who just want practice. They don't want to just sit in a queue for 30 minutes and they can't get practice. That's a big deal. So yeah, MMR, queue times, rewards. I feel like we're maybe beating a dead horse with this, but I just wanted to lay it all out in text and review it so we can actually like get everything nailed down that we really need to talk about and raise as an issue, as a concern. The solution here is ban people when it comes to cheating. Like, ban players. Like, you just have to take action. I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know if they are taking action and we're just not seeing it, or what's going on, or if the cheaters are that developed that they can just remake accounts so easily and they can just immediately get back into it. But it's not a fun experience when there's cheating, and the cheating becomes a lot more prevalent when it's a lower participation, which is a result of these issues. So that's why I said this is the priority. If you fix this, queue times, you fix the MMR inconsistencies, you level up the reward system, you're gonna notice the cheating a lot less. Although maybe not for epic BGs, because I think this is a lot for you more of you casual players, right? But with the win trading, the queue syncing, and if you reclassify this, you're going to notice the cheating a lot less because there's going to be more players. So it's harder to see. But when there's less players and it's just the cheaters sticking around, it's way easier to notice. So that's why I say this is like a top-down. These are the issues that need to be looked at. They need to be addressed. They need to be talked about. It's at some level, right? Like, it seems like at this point that it's ridiculous that they're not, because these have been the ongoing issues for like 2 to 3 years at this point. And they lead to this. This is like the symptom of a result of all of these issues above. And I think that there are solutions. I think there are solutions that need to be actioned on, and will likely increase participation and, more importantly, retention over the long term as well, for returning and as well as for some new players. But that's basically it for my discussion here. I just wanted to outline it. What I think are the problems. Again, let me know if you think that I missed something, or if I'm totally off base here. This doesn't make any sense, but I feel like we need some significant change, some significant restructuring, in order to kind of reestablish the game moving forward, so that we don't have this kind of issue ongoing. Now, obviously, I am aware that there are social changes as well. No game really, except maybe less than 5 games in all of video games, are a growing pool of players, right? They usually have hype phases. They're really cool for a month to 3 months, and then it's a drop off in participation. Hopefully the goal with these changes is to, limit that drop off as much as possible, and to give the bump up every time there's a next major patch or major update moving forward into the future, so that we can have a healthier game, a more stable game, because that's what I want, right? So thank you guys very much for watching the video. I hope you guys enjoyed the discussion, and I will see you in the next one.